Good evening. I'm Shirley Graff, a member of the Halifax Beautification Committee. The other members of the committee are Amy Troop and Jeremy Gillespie and Tina Palmer. On Saturday, the Halifax Beautification Committee, first of all, this is being recorded by Halifax Information Technology. And on Saturday, the Halifax Beautification Committee will be kicking off our fall litter busting cleanup week, which runs through October 22nd. Please consider signing up on the sheet on the back table. And a dumpster will be on hand behind the town hall for litter picked up. The Halifax Beautification Committee is also collecting bulbs for the next couple weeks to be planted in some of our town's open spaces. You can bring the bulbs to one of our events or to the entry of the Holmes Public Library during library hours. And now to tonight's event. The members of the Halifax Beautification Committee have individually all spent a considerable amount of time ensuring the beauty of Burrage Pond Wildlife Management Area by either hiking, biking, fishing, cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, and or kayaking. Each excursion to this beautiful asset of Halifax and Hanson offers a surprise. It could be a beautiful sunset, a sandhill crane, a turtle hatching, a field of glistening spiderwebs, a flock of purple martins. The list is endless. The Halifax Beautification Committee decided to invite Aaron Best, the land steward biologist for Burrage, to come tonight to share with you some of his knowledge of the history and beauty of Burrage. Aaron will also be leading a walk at Burrage on Sunday, October 15th at 1:30 from the Halifax Elm Street entrance to Burrage. It can be found between Pond Street and Furnace Street. And the Halifax Beautification Committee would like to present a small gift to Aaron. It's a book titled The Tree, a life story by David Suzuki and Wayne Grady, which is a beautiful biography of a Douglas fir tree more than 500 years old. Thank you again, Aaron, for coming tonight.
Thank you. All right. Okay, so my name's Aaron Best. I work for Division of Fisheries and Wildlife, a state agency. I'm the Southeast District Stewardship Biologist, so really what that means, can you guys hear me okay? Do I need this? Okay. So essentially what that means is it's my responsibility to deal with all of our land holdings, whether that be boundary marking, creating and maintaining parking areas, gates, stopping unwanted access, ATVs, dirt bikes, habitat management, so mowing, tree work, herbicide work, prescribed fire, cleaning up trash, pretty much anything you can think of that goes on our properties falls under me in the Southeast District. So the Southeast District consists of Plymouth, Bristol, and Barnstable counties and the islands. We have work to do in every single corner of the district. We have properties all over that. Burrage is one of our more heavily maintained properties just because of the way it's set up. It's essentially water management, water level management, so that in and of itself creates a lot of work compared to other properties that we have. So I went to Framingham State College. I graduated with a degree in wildlife and environmental management. From there, I interned with the state for 1 year. Fisheries technician job opened up and I got it. So I spent the first 10 years of my career as a fisheries technician, doing pond profiles, pond surveys, stream surveys, trout stocking, pretty much everything that has to do with the fish in this state. From there, I was promoted into the stewardship biologist position after about 10 years, and that's where I've been ever since. And so I love it. It's fun. Outside every single day. Really can't beat it. Don't really use computers, so making this presentation was a bit of a struggle. But we have some young guys on staff that were able to help me out and move me along. So here I am. So Mass Wildlife is responsible. Oh boy. Mass Wildlife is responsible for the conservation of freshwater fish and wildlife in the Commonwealth, including endangered species, plants and animals. Mass Wildlife restores, protects, and manages land for wildlife to thrive and for people to enjoy. That's pretty much, that's our mission statement. A lot of people think that we just deal with game species, hunting, fishing, trapping. That's all true, but that's not where it ends. We have an obligation to include endangered plants and animals in that, and we do a lot of our management based on endangered species also. So, and any questions? This is a relatively brief presentation, so if you guys have any questions while I'm talking, want any clarification on anything, just stop me, ask questions. That's great. The more interaction we have, the better off I'll be in the long run.
What endangered species are in like Burrage?
So Burrage has a whole bunch of them.
Really?
One in particular, the red-bellied cooter. So it's a rather large turtle. It looks almost just like a painted turtle, except for it's a lot bigger. It's got a dome-shaped.
It's like an elder.
Yep. They're huge. When you see them, it's unmistakable. They're not quite the size of a large snapping turtle, but they look just like a painted turtle. Sandhill cranes, we have them now. How many of you are bird watchers? A lot of people. How many people spend time out at Burrage? Everybody? Yeah. So I'm sure you've seen almost everything out there.
Is there anything out there that shouldn't be there?
Lots of invasive species, mostly plant species. So you're looking at like Phragmites is a big one. So when you're managing for an emergent wetland, which is what we try to do at Burrage, you have a lot of early successional species that want to come up in that wetland. So you have Phragmites, which is a big problem, purple loosestrife. You have different types of grasses that are undesirable. What we kind of want to see is like, you want to see the bulrushes, you want to see the sedges, you want to see little blue stem in the upland areas. So those like seas of like grasses that you see up near like the environmental police house. Those bogs we've kind of converted into kind of like an upland habitat because we can't flood them. It requires pumps to get water into those bogs. So instead of doing that, we decided just to leave them as upland. And so there's a lot of good, little blue stem in there. Cedars, the Atlantic white cedar is coming in the bog. If you come in from the Hawks Ave side, the bog on the left-hand side, there's a good Atlantic white cedar swamp in there, and that is starting to come into the bog, which is good. We want that. We want to see that kind of stuff come in on its own. There's not much you can do to help, really plant a lot of Atlantic white cedar. The deer like to eat them and things like that. So if you can get natural encroachment of that kind of stuff, that's what we want to see. But mostly the plants are the one is the hard thing to get rid of. Once the invasive plants start to take hold, it's hard to get rid of them. So, and you see that in the upland areas that we restore in other parts of the state. Any kind of early successional habitat that we want to try to create and maintain, most of the time you have to contend with the invasives also. So, because the invasives love that's what they're meant to be in early successional habitat.
What do you do to fight the invasives? So
it's a combination of a whole bunch of different things. Mowing at the right time of year can help knock it back. Herbicide treatments, can help. Prescribed fire can help. In fact, prescribed fire is probably the preferred method. A lot of the stuff that we want to see, a lot of the species that we want to see are fire-tolerant species, and a lot of the invasive species that we want to get rid of are not. So we have burned up at Burrage in the past. It takes a lot of coordination. We've only done it once or twice that I'm aware of. So, but that's one of those places that we'd like to start to introduce a little bit more fire. So it's you know, pulling stuff up by the roots, the purple loosestrife, labor-intensive job, but pulling that stuff up by the roots, putting it up on dry ground for it to dry out and die, probably the best way to get rid of that kind of stuff. Yep.
Yeah, how about Japanese knotweed?
Japanese knotweed is horrible. It's nearly impossible to get rid of that stuff without using herbicide. They grow from rhizomes, so it's like an underground network of roots. So when you pull them up, you can pull them up, you know, as much as you possibly can. If you leave, you know, even just a speck of those roots underground, they pop right back up the next year. Very difficult. And the beauty of the herbicide is it gets onto the leaves, sucked down into the root system, and kills off the root system. So if you can tactically, you know, those you want to spray, if you're going to spray them, you want to spray them while they're in flower. So end of the summertime is the best time to do that.
I saw the pond has a lot of Eurasian milfoil. Did you
Yeah,
check that?
that's another, we don't treat for that.
No.
That's a whole nother animal, as far as trying to treat for aquatic invasives. It's a difficult process and it's very expensive. They have done it in other places. Right now they're working on a project on the Nemasket in Long Pond in Lakeville. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. They're using what's called an eco-harvester. And so that is just a giant, like, you know, water wheel machine that goes through the water, cuts off the weed underwater, brings it up onto the deck of the boat, and then they dump it, let it dry off, and then sell it or send it away for compost or whatever. Costs a lot of money to do that. Burrage Pond wouldn't be a good candidate for that because it's a stump pond, and there's just no way to get a machine like that in a pond like that. So, yeah.
So, I've read that, Eurasian milfoil only has like a lifespan of about 20 years. Any infestation lasts about 20 years.
Mhm.
Like it's not invasive in Europe and
Yeah.
Asia and stuff, so I'm figuring it's nutrient limited.
Yeah.
And, what I see a lot, and what's happened on Monponset is, if you put a systematic herbicide to milfoil, especially, there's two different types of milfoil. There's Eurasians and there's variable, which could be a combination of northern
Mm-hmm.
and you know, it's a hybrid, so it's partially native.
Yeah.
Eurasian milfoil seems to be
There are
deeper.
native milfoils.
Right,
Yeah.
northern milfoil, which I don't even, I've never seen.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to tell
What
you.
I've seen happening is they come in with a systematic herbicide that kills pretty much everything back,
Mm-hmm.
and then what's the first plant to take over that new open space and that zone of sunlight? It's gonna be milfoil.
Yeah, and
So
it's-
Monponset had a treatment last year of, what's the name of the herbicide? Systematic herbicide.
I'm not sure.
It was expensive.
Yeah.
Already plenty of, sonar. There's already plenty of milfoil back in the lake.
Mm-hmm.
And some milfoil is okay. It cleans the water, it provides habitat. But unless you're planting, you know, native species like eelgrass,
Mhm.
you know, yellow flag,
Yeah, and that,
you know, coontail, the milfoil is gonna obviously occupy that space.
Yeah.
So I see this as a recurring, expensive, undertaking that is like a negative feedback loop.
Mhm.
How can we get the state to recognize that, like, look, yeah, we can kill the milfoil, but if we don't supplement that with native plants,
Right.
it's gonna become,
Right.
I mean, 1 year for $200,000.
and then, you know, then you have the other added problem of how do you go about then planting other
Right.
stuff? Is there anybody that even knows how that's done? I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm not sure if that's even, I've never seen it. I've
I'm
never
not-
seen anyone try to plant like aquatic vegetation
I've
or
done
anything
some,
like that, but,
it's yellow flag.
Yeah,
You know, but
yeah.
I've tried to see if I can get the
right.
propagate.
And at a large scale like that, you'd have to try to find like a company that specializes in something like that, and is that even a thing that exists? I don't
It
even
does,
really
but
know.
At what point does the cost of the herbicides, you know, just get too destructive to the native
Right.
plant community?
Right.
Because it doesn't just kill milfoil, it kills
Yeah.
blackboard, it
And-
kills eelgrass.
And there's a lot of, there's
other
a
stuff.
giant learning curve to all this, because this is all relatively new stuff too.
Yeah.
Trying to combat a lot of these aquatic invasives is like, yeah, we're right on the forefront of it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, a lot of people are doing a lot of trial and error, trying to figure out what works, what doesn't, and how to go about.
I think mechanical. is
Yeah,
probably-
mechanical is a great
'cause It
option.
doesn't hurt
Yeah,
if you open up space for the natives and let them
yeah.
flourish.
And
If
the,
you keep killing them back, it's just, the milfoil is always gonna be the first thing.
right, and the harvesting's great too, because it, it leaves, it pulls the nutrients, you're taking those nutrients away from the water source, and so
Yeah.
there's not nutrients that are now going back into the ground
Right,
to help proliferate
right.
more of what you don't want, so. So Southeast District, this is the area that I cover. All the green on here are properties that we either own, or we have conservation restrictions on. So Mass Wildlife protects land mainly in two different ways. Wildlife management areas, which are properties that we own in fee. So we're free to manage those properties as we see fit. We also have wildlife conservation easements. Most of these properties are owned by municipalities, land trusts, private entities, and they're protected by a conservation restriction that's owned by us. And the way that these come into existence most of the time is when a town wants to buy a piece of conservation land. They don't have the funds to fully buy the conservation land. They ask us to pitch in, say, half of the money to buy it. When we do that, we put a conservation restriction on the land, which gives us a lot of management rights. Generally, most of the time, opens the property up to hunting, fishing, and trapping. So we gain a lot of access for what we want to do. We gain a lot of management rights, so we can do a lot of, management either ourselves or in conjunction with the town or the municipality or the land trust. So it's kind of a win-win for everybody. You get to protect the land that the town wanted to protect, and also we gain a lot of access and a lot of habitat management. As of 2022, Mass Wildlife Southeast District totaled 57,505 acres of land under its custody, and we're adding to that every single year. Keep in mind, we have about 6 people that work in all these districts, so. We're spread thin, which is good. You have something to do every single day. If you're not busy, you're not doing something right, so. So more specifically, Burrage Pond, now up to, and so before I get into that, conservation restrictions, we own 2 conservation restrictions on town property here, right off of Elm Street. We call that the Meadow Brook Wildlife Conservation Easement. The town calls it something different. I'm not exactly sure what it is off the top of my head, but.
Smith now is us.
Yep, that's it. And then the Stump Brook. So this one, Stump Brook is tough. There's hardly any access to this. But it's a great area for waterfowl. It's a great area for turtles, everything that we're interested in wanting to see proliferate. Yep.
I think some of the people didn't hear what that Smith's area was.
Yep, Smith
Nawazowski?
Nawazaki, I'm pretty sure it's the name of the person that owned the property before the town picked it up.
It's opposite
Thank you.
Hanson's entrance on Elm Street.
Yep,
Directly opposite.
so that's a great piece of property. All sorts of different stuff in there.
Is there the bridge that goes across?
There's a bridge that goes across. It's not in this
Still
picture.
walkable?
Well, I walked it last year and
Oh,
I
you did?
just about got across there. And I saw, sign of people using that with dirt bikes. And I was like, how in the world? Like, I could barely walk across it. So, I wouldn't call it the safest boardwalk of all time.
No, it's really a neat walk.
But it's very neat. It goes right over the brook and
Yeah.
it brings you out to the power line on the other side. It's pretty cool over there. It's a very nice walk. Wear your boots because it's muddy back there. But it's worth checking out. This one here?
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly what the acreage is there, but I would venture to say, just by looking at it here, 200 to 300 acres maybe, somewhere in that range. Maybe not that, I'm not good at estimating, but, Burrage Pond, area now totals about 3,000 acres of permanently protected open space. Like I said, it's probably one of our most heavily managed wildlife management areas. We are constantly up there dealing with water levels, dealing with flumes, dealing with blowouts in the roads, dealing with all sorts of different things.
Brings the beavers.
The beavers are causing us all sorts of issues over there. And I'll get into that a little bit later too. Spans the towns of Hanson and Halifax. Access to the WMA provided by 3 parking lots, actually 4 now. We picked up a new one
Yeah.
down on Elm Street that I just built not that long ago. I don't have it on here, but Elm Street, this is the old Ellen Stillman cranberry bogs.
Right.
We picked that up after we picked up the main body of the property. And then Hawks Ave in Hanson up by the railroad tracks.
Those Stillman bogs, they're active, correct?
There, it's still active, yep. So Beaton Cranberry has a lease agreement with us. And so they maintain and manage those bogs, which is great because we don't, generally what happens with our lease agreements on our properties like this is we get a lot of work from the people that lease the properties. So the cranberry bog owner does a lot of infrastructure work for us. He redid the parking lot that we're gonna be using on Sunday for us. He did a great job with that, yep. So it's a good partnership and it's a huge help to us. There's a lot of work that we do ourselves in-house, most of it, but there's some projects that are too big for us to handle ourselves, and that's.
So they help out quite a bit?
Oh, yeah. So, bordered to the east by Elm Street, to the west by Stump Brook, which comes with its own challenges. Stump Brook has the Brockton Dam on it, and so we have to always make sure, you know, with us and the city of Brockton, make sure that's flowing. And like all of our properties, this Burrage is managed for both habitat and to provide opportunity to the sporting community for hunting, fishing, and trapping, which is our main source of funding. So.
Oh, I just have a question.
Yep.
Is there, like, if we see that it's clogged, like the fish ladder, is there like a number or someplace?
I could leave our office number with you. You'll probably find more often than not that it's clogged up.
Well, don't forget about the new fish ladder.
What's that?
Don't forget about the new fish ladder.
Which one?
That Brad just put in there at Stump Pond, between Robbins Reservoir
Over here?
and Robbins Pond, yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
So where's that ladder exactly?
Let's see. It's actually past your picture, but it's
Okay.
right here. It's the one that broke, you know.
Yeah. Oh, is that the one that blew out back in the springtime? Yeah,
But
okay.
the fish ladder is on the regular flow tube.
Yeah.
And you got it put in one day, so good work for him.
Did it come out good?
At Robbins Pond.
At Robbins Pond, yeah.
The herring, you're getting right up to it.
Yeah, but they couldn't get past there.
Right.
Yeah, so
That's gonna be cool if we can get herring all the way up to Mount Ponce.
that would be,
Next
that would
spring's
be
gonna take
great.
a lot of work.
Yeah. So every fish ladder is every way you can get past a dam, the better, as far as fish passage is concerned. Fish passage is like one of the biggest problems in this part of the state, so. So just a brief history of how the property came to be. Originally known as the Great Cedar Swamp, in 1905, Albert C. Burrage started digging peat for fuel, later developed into cranberry bogs. 1931, the area was purchased by United Cape Cod Cranberry Company. 1977, Cumberland Farms picked it up, who created more bogs between 77 and 1990. 1990, it was purchased by the Northland Cranberry Company, which Burrage, I believe, was one of the biggest continuous cranberry bog complexes in the state at the time, possibly even in the country, but I don't want to say that because I don't know for sure. But and then 2002, it was picked up by Fish and Wildlife when Northland was getting out of town and heading all their operations, Oregon, Wisconsin, out that way, big cranberry country up there. So, and then not too long after 2002, we wound up purchasing the Ellen Stillman Bog Complex after that, and kind of stitching that whole piece together. So. So today, Burrage Pond is managed as an emergent wetland habitat for the most part. Like I said, some of it we've managed for upland. So from our district activities, we raise and lower water levels seasonally to promote forage for waterfowl, create nesting habitat, and try to discourage invasive growth. The water levels can help you kind of kill off some of the woody tree type invasives, and there's also stuff out there that we actually don't want that's native tree species that we don't want growing in the bogs because we don't want it to take over. We kind of want to keep it looking like this. So if you keep the water levels high, you can kill off a lot of tree species that can't tolerate it. It's a balancing act because it's hard to keep the water levels that high without overtopping the roads, and if we overtop the roads, this is a huge problem for us. So other management activities on the property: mowing, tree cutting, road maintenance, prescribed fire, hopefully more in the future, herbicide treatments, and cranberry production. Some of these bogs on the main side of Burrage still have cranberries naturally, still growing in them. I've picked them myself. Don't hesitate to go out there and forage for them, pick them, get them, and use them. I wouldn't hesitate 1 second to go do that. We've also had some much larger projects that we can't do ourselves, funded in part by the North American Wetlands Conservation Act, which is specifically to aid duck production, waterfowl production, but it also has a lot of other added benefits to turtle species and pretty much everything else that uses the property. So we've significantly improved the habitat by converting bog service into what we call pit and mound areas. If you guys noticed any of that out there. So most of that's at the lower end of the complex. And so that's an awesome project. Take, flat monoculture, bog surface, dig it up, create pits for water, and then you create the mounds. The water is good for dabbling ducks, foraging activity, and then the mounds create a lot of nesting habitat. And so you can, and not just for waterfowl, but it creates nesting habitat for turtles also, which is huge.
A lot of turtles at the bar.
Lots and lots of turtles, yep. And snakes, lots of snakes. When I see those, I usually climb up to the roof of my truck.
Those snakes are nice.
So yeah, I'm sure they are. So I mean, obviously, big question. Why would we go through all this effort? And it's obviously because well-maintained wetland habitat is home to so many game and non-game species. Too many to list here, but that's Burrage is. I think part of the reason why Burrage is so popular is, one, because you can see forever and ever and ever, and naturally, that's human beings have evolved to want to be in places where they can see forever and ever and ever, and it's just a natural comfort for people to be in, but also just the wildlife that inhabits the place. And with the amount of people and human activity there, most properties, most wildlife, they can't tolerate too much human activity. And this place is big enough, and you can see far enough to where the wildlife can tolerate the human activity, and you can see them readily because you can see so far, and it's just great for so many different things. So the wood duck is one of the main waterfowl species that we manage on the property. Wood ducks are natural cavity nesting ducks, historically using tree cavities to lay their eggs. A 1945 study showed nesting populations low over much of the state due to the 1938 hurricane pretty much wiping out all their cavity trees. By this time, Mass Division of Fisheries and Game, which it was called at the time, had begun erecting boxes and placing them in a few trial areas. Burrage Pond was used as a natural cavity study area, so like a control to see how the boxes were actually working. As a result of the success of the box program, the division expanded the program statewide, and we still build and maintain boxes to this day. And Burrage is one of our study production areas. We build and maintain boxes out way out on the upper pond. And so we take those boxes, we put them out in the water, and we put predator guards on the bottom, predator guards on the front, because the raccoons will get in there and destroy them. And we have quite a lot of good wood duck and hooded merganser production on the property. So it's one of our better production areas for wood ducks. Fur bearers, here's our little buddy. So if you build it, they will come. Obviously, the beavers love the area. It's everything that they could ever dream of. Moving water to try to stop. It's a great area for them. So it's no surprise that they made their way in there. They're pretty much everywhere in the Southeast District now, besides the Cape. All over the place.
Some that moved? Did you-
It wouldn't surprise me. I don't know though.
Because
You mean like moved into the area or moved out?
Moved out.
They've been trapped and
So when we trap them, we can't move them. It's illegal for us to move them. So when we
Go to
trap
a
them,
nicer place.
so lack of a better term, they have, yeah.
Does
Yeah.
the beaver have a reason to make a dam back there? Because
Yep.
I've found 3 beaver huts
Yeah.
back there, but
So most of them,
no dam, maybe
so
one.
they've built dams on Stump Brook. They've had that stopped up pretty good in the past.
Yeah.
So they did have a real full-on dam across Stump Brook, and they definitely have, what I can see from the water levels at the Brockton Dam going south, it seems to me like they must have something going on further downstream from there, but I haven't set eyes on it, so I'm not sure. But for the most part, all the moving water is through our flumes, and that's where they target to stop. So it's good in a sense because it's easy to pull all the stuff out of there and keep the water flowing because it's such a small confined area. But it's difficult because they come right back in the next night and
These
dam it back up
dams-
again. So
These old dams that used to hold water for the bogs, so like I've kayaked all the way to Elm Street, and so getting to Stumberg Dam, it's a pretty clean channel.
Yeah.
You know, but once you get over Stumberg Dam, you're taking the current, so basically Stumberg Dam is taking the current and out of the lower levels of the water and moving it to the top, right?
Yeah.
So that sluice gate's closed, it's not open. And once you get past Stumberg Dam, it starts to become like a bayou. There's
yeah, it's a big giant floodplain.
and I think
Yeah.
that's just bad for Snaky River, Stump Brook generally because it's
So-
losing its flow.
Well, in this part of the state, all of our streams, in fact, are low flow systems that
Right.
they're not high gradient streams like you'd see out in
Right.
Western Mass. So most of our stream systems have floodplains and very 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 little gradient between say miles of river.
Is there any chance of
So-
like getting the state to put in some money to start removing some of these blockages that are really not necessary?
So some of these issues are bigger than what we can do. The state doesn't own any rights to do anything on Stump Brook. We don't own Stump Brook. We only
Who
own
owns
up
Stump
to,
Brook?
don't know. I think I would say probably the city of Brockton at that point.
Do they
So-
own it? I mean, it's a
They own the water
long
rights.
river.
Well, they own the water rights to it.
Mass Audubon.
Mass Audubon owns across the river.
But they don't own all the other dams and Burrage, like below Stumper Dam, there's another dam.
Right.
There's another dam.
Yeah.
Another dam
Right.
that's not really doing anything but
Yeah.
collecting debris.
Yeah.
Flowing water down.
This leads to a question I've been meaning to ask, because you repeatedly use the term managing emerging wetlands.
Yeah.
My question is related to that, some of these issues about flow and so forth. Because my observation, and I've played in the bogs for over
Yep.
70 years, I
Yeah.
still walk and run in the bogs when I visit here. I grew up here, but I don't live here. Is what exactly is your aim there? Because at one point you actually mentioned, I mean, I'm always surprised to see how much damming and the canals are still there, the reservoir's still there, and some of it's growing back into natural wetlands, and
Yeah.
a lot of it is still managed in some way. And my curiosity is, what is you did say at one point that having the water high would be helpful against the invasive.
Yeah.
So that's one.
Yeah.
Could you expand on that whole idea, the 30,000 feet? I'm less, I'm less into the
So-
specifics, but rather the larger picture. What is the aim here?
In general, the idea is to sort of keep it the way it looks right now. We don't want, you know, more tree, bush, shrub growth, the bulrush, and that kind of stuff. Ideally, I'd like to see, if I was making those kinds of decisions, the big scale picture, I'd like to see more of the pit and mound areas. Big picture at Burrage.
So what's the idea about why you want it the way it is? I'm not,
Because-
I don't have a judgment one way or the
Because
other.
we don't have a lot of it in this state.
Okay.
And it goes back to the same kind of idea of early successional habitat in the uplands. What we want to see statewide is a lot more than what we actually have. And so unmanaged and unchecked, all this stuff grows up into whatever, a tangled,
whatever it
it wants to be.
Yeah.
Yep. And once it turns into a maple swamp,
And you don't want
it's
what it
gone.
was.
And we don't want maple swamp.
Okay.
What we want to see is this open, emergent
Okay.
wetland. Yeah, yep.
What do you think the main cause of our streams not running in Massachusetts?
It's gradient, for the most part. It's gradient and it's stream impediments, dams. But it's all low gradient streams in the state, and I think that's, you know, you look at, I'm on a committee in Lakeville looking at water flow in the Nemasket River coming from Assawamsett and heading out to the Taunton River. And there's stretches of that river that go from Assawamsett all the way to the center of Middleborough. That whole entire stretch is only 3 feet difference. So how much water could you possibly move in that amount of distance if you only have 3 feet of difference, you know, from, you know, however 6 miles of a river, however many miles it would be. So I think that's really the real. And if you look at these stream systems, when you stand and actually look and step back and see, most of these stream systems have giant floodplains, and that's all been created over time from just the pure nature of being a low gradient stream. When there's a lot of water, all that water backs up into the floodplains. When there isn't a lot of water, you see, you know, defined stream channels.
But it used to be flowing, correct?
I mean, I would say probably go back 100, 200 years. Some of these streams probably look very similar, but I can't say for sure. I'm not sure. But,
Oh, I have a question.
Yep.
Is there any effort made for conservation of butterflies?
yeah, I mean, I'm sure, I'm not all that well versed in insects, but there's, you know, monarch butterflies are a big thing with milkweed. So we try, when we're doing our mowing and things like that, we try to avoid the milkweed and things that could help the, yeah, so we're definitely conscious of a lot of that kind of stuff.
Because
But,
a few years ago, they did the mowing along the main road,
Mhm.
from ponds, and there was a lot of milkweed.
yeah,
There used to be a lot of monarchs.
Mhm.
There used to be in Burrage, and when they mowed that down, right, that's where a lot of the
Yeah.
milkweed was. And very little of it has come back.
Yeah.
And it's like several years, and there's only, like, I mean, the areas that I usually spend most of the time is like, you know, coming from like Fox Avenue, so
Mhm.
I walk along
Yeah.
that area, the northern section more. And there's very few common milkweed plants.
Yeah.
You know, that are growing. And I have seen one monarch this year.
yeah,
I've seen a lot of visceroys, but, you know, when I look at them closely, I see that they're, you know, well, you know, I think it's a monarch, and
Mhm.
it's actually a visceroid.
yeah,
So, you know, it seems like they've taken a big hit.
yeah.
'Cause
So that's
over time-
definitely something that we could, you know, try to avoid doing for sure. Yeah, just mowing down all the
Any
milkweed.
thought as to maybe trying to plant, you know, like spread seeds and?
We've never had any inquiries into doing that. I don't know how we would go about doing that. I don't see why we couldn't. We plant other things, we plant grasses, we plant all sorts of stuff.
I think when we had more milkweed plants, the bog roads were narrower.
Yeah.
Widened,
Mm-hmm.
cut down a lot.
Yeah. So the trouble too is part of our maintenance of our bog roads, a lot of them are considered dams. And so we can't allow woody debris to take hold. We can't have that. And so every so often we do go in and mow them back pretty severely. So in an attempt to get rid of some of that woody growth.
And once that woody growth takes over, it would crowd out the milkweed plants
Yeah.
anyway,
Well, for
so
example, like,
it's just.
like
Yeah.
in the Hawks Avenue, like, when you first come in,
Mhm.
across from the barn, I mean, there's that big open field, and that's one area where it would be, because it's maintained, it's a
Right,
field.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so that might be a good place.
That'd be a great place for that, yeah.
Because then, you know, you can, maintain mowing, the roads and stuff, so.
Yeah.
You know, I understand.
Yeah, if you could plant it in rows, you
Necessary
could
too.
more easily manage it too.
Yeah.
You know, you could mow in between the rows of milkweed, that would be, you know, a pretty good suggestion too. So there's all, yeah.
Designated area where that's how it's.
Yeah, and then maintain it specifically for that.
For that one.
Right, yeah.
As an experiment.
Yeah, yeah, we could do
Somebody
some,
might fund it.
do some science. So obviously,
It's
oh,
just-
go
I'm
ahead.
just saying, it's just a good place because it's very sunny and.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
really good.
yeah.
Because the monarchs and the other butterflies, they're declining. and
Right,
decreasing, so
yeah.
This would be a great opportunity, for
Yeah, yeah.
do some conservation.
So moving on to the non-game species, that's your red-bellied cuda there. Really pretty turtle, big turtle. We've done, so we're responsible for the conservation of all freshwater fish and wildlife in the Commonwealth. We have many programs that benefit endangered and threatened species, from bald eagles to northern red-bellied cooter and everything in between. This particular project is kind of fun because the kids at Bristol Aggie get to raise the hatchlings up to, it's called the hacking program. And so what they'll do is they'll raise the hatchlings up to a size where they stand a much better chance of survival in the wild. And then we have a program where they can come out and, the community, I'm sure some of you guys have been in on this too. And the kids love doing the turtle release, and they let all the hatchlings go into Burrage Pond. And there's quite a lot of these turtles out there these days, so.
You guys mark that with like a glass?
So
bottle?
we mark them with what's called pit tags.
Yep.
And so it's like the same tag that you put like in your dog or something. Like, it's got an RFID tag that has its own, unique number. So if we catch one, we can scan it and see where it's moved to, where it came from.
And
So-
when did they do those releases?
They usually do those releases in the spring, I believe. Yeah, and they do them all over. It's not always at Burrage. We'll do them at like Quiticus over in Lakeville, Middleborough, a few other places.
Neat to see.
Yeah. The kids love it. It's fun. But Burrage is probably one of the bigger ones that we get the biggest turnout at Burrage, I think.
And pre-COVID times, you used to put it on your Facebook page when that release was.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen it since.
Yeah, I don't
COVID.
know
I
how to.
happened upon it.
Yeah.
Last spring.
Oh, okay.
Because I happened to.
Was it an event, or was it just someone just putting turtles in there?
No, it was
That's-
an event.
Yeah, it was, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know anything about how our Facebook works. I don't know how to use it. I don't have Facebook myself. I certainly don't have any control of our Facebook page, thank God. So I have no idea how any of that goes. So that's all maintained out of our Westboro office. And so there's like a whole team of Facebook people. So funding, so most of our funding comes through the sale of hunting, fishing, and trapping licenses. Most of the work we do is federally reimbursed. So any kind of habitat work that we do is reimbursed through the Pittman-Robertson Act of 1937. This is an 11% tax on firearms, ammunition, archery equipment, now scopes, binoculars, and things like that. This money is then divvied up amongst all 50 states in the country, specifically for wildlife and habitat maintenance and restoration. So pretty much everything we do, whether it be mowing, burning, any kind of habitat improvement work that we do, we get reimbursed from this Pittman-Robertson Act. So this is like a much larger scale picture of how kind of the agency works, and how all agencies, state fish and wildlife agencies work. This is kind of the cornerstone of the North American model of wildlife conservation. I'll quickly go over that for you. The North American model for wildlife conservation, touted as the most successful wildlife management model in the world, emphasizes the importance of involving the sporting public in wildlife management. based on these 7 principles. Wildlife is a public trust. No one person owns the wildlife. It's owned by the public. Elimination of markets for game, which historically led to severe crashes in all sorts of different types of wildlife. Waterfowl, namely, for us as far as we're concerned in this state, but that's what took out the American bison, and all these things. So elimination of markets for game, allocation of wildlife by law. So when you buy a hunting license, you get certain tags, you get a book that gives you all the laws of what you can take, what you can't take, and that's all scientifically based quotas that people can safely take without harming a wildlife population. Opportunity for all. There is no no people that are left out of this. Anyone who wants to do it can. Non-frivolous use of wildlife. You can't just, obviously you can't just harvest an animal and leave it there and not use it. That's against the law. Wildlife as an international resource. This is more geared towards things like otters, bobcats, and things like that, you know, spend their time, Canada, United States. These are all internationally managed species. And it all boils down to scientific management. This is a picture of one of our biologists. In the fall every year, we run our deer check stations, and what we do there, what he's doing there is checking the teeth to age the deer. We weigh them, age them, and we create a population structure model for what we have for deer in the state. And we do this with a lot of different animals too, not just deer. That helps us model for what we have for, say, in this instance, a deer population. And it allows us to assess the health of the deer population, assess if we can allow the hunters to take more deer or restrict how many deer they can take. And it's based on different zones in the state. So our zone pretty much covers Plymouth and Bristol counties. Very healthy deer population here. So I'm sure everyone knows when they look out and then see their hostas. And so, yeah, so this is the model that we try to strive for when we're dealing with game species and fish species. So obviously, Burrage has tons of different user groups. It's a unique property with something to offer for anyone looking to enjoy the outdoors. Plenty of opportunity for hunting, trapping, fishing, hiking, wildlife viewing, bird watching, foraging for mushrooms. It's going to be a good year for mushrooms if anyone's into that. It's been super wet. I'm already starting to see a lot of mushrooms pop. So, and if you're lucky, you'll get a chance to see the sandhill cranes. Usually I've been seeing them three at a time, and they're always up. You're seeing 5? Yeah.
5
Yeah.
5, and then we have down near us, we get 3.
Yeah. So, and that's a pretty new development within the past 5 to 10 years in the area. It's pretty neat to see them. They're huge. They're just like nothing I've ever seen before. They're awesome. So, yeah, oh yeah, and loud. So.
First time we heard that, what?
Yeah. Yeah. So, just something different, something that you don't see every day. And every day you go out, you might not see it every day. So when you get a glimpse of them, it's pretty fun. So we have a couple things kind of on the docket for future management of the property. This one, I'm sure most of you have seen the big giant riprap piles that we have stockpiled up there. So that's all going to be meant to repair the main dam. So, and I'm sure you guys have all seen too, like the main dam is starting to get some serious erosion and some washouts. So we need to take that riprap, build up that side of the road. We can't afford to allow this road to get compromised, because that is a heck of a lot of water being held back by that. So if we lose that, you're probably looking at Some places, you're looking at probably 7 feet of elevation difference, and that's gonna be a lot of water, moving very fast. So we're working on getting that squared away with permitting and all that right now. Hopefully we can get that going pretty soon. So that's the big one. That's the big one that we have going on up here, besides our regular maintenance of the property. So that's kind of all whoopsie doozy. That's all I had for, you know, the main bulk of the presentation. I sort of mapped out a walk for us for Sunday. I measured it out to be about 2 miles. Kind of cut out these two and just make the big loop around. That'll bring us through a lot of the pit and mound areas, well, the only pit and mound areas, through here, so we'll be able to see all that. It'll bring us by some pretty major infrastructure, around the pond. So that'll be good to see. I think it'll be a good kind of snapshot of what we have out there.
Is it rain or shine?
That's up to you guys.
It's a leaf.
I'll be out there no matter what, that's fine, yep.
There's no such thing as bad weather.
So,
Bad cold.
so, I work outside every day, so it makes no difference at all to me, so, so that's that, and if you guys have any other questions or wanna grab me on the side later, yeah.
The hunting cabin down there.
So the Cedar Gun Club, yeah.
Yes.
So that,
What goes on with that? Tell me a little bit about that.
so that's a, mainly a duck hunting club. They've been on the property since Northland Cranberries owned the property. And so we've continued to, permit their club. There's no shooting ranges or anything on the club. It's mainly, for access to the duck hunting on the ponds. They maintain the, waterfowl blinds that are out on the ponds. So most of the time they use them, but those blinds are all open to the public. So if one of the club members builds a blind and someone else comes in the morning and is sitting in it, that's their blind for the day. So they know that, and that's how it works. So they have a monthly meeting there. I think it's every Wednesday, every first Wednesday of the month. They do a lot of trash cleanup for us. They do a lot of, you know, a little bit of patrolling of the property, a little bit of maintenance for us, so. And they have, yep, they mow that area, yep. Yeah, they keep their grounds,
Right.
yeah. Yep, and they keep an eye
How long
on.
are they gonna be there for? Do they have, what's the term of the state?
So most of our license agreements are 5-year terms. And so,
They're longer than that.
yeah, so they get renewed every 5 years.
Okay, so it's not like a 90-year.
No, we don't do that because with most of our lease agreements and things like that, we want to make sure opportunity to review and make sure, you know, the people that we hold lease agreements with are holding up their end of the bargain. So we won't anything like that. No, that's not. No, that wouldn't be good business for us. So
It's interesting, the history hanging on the side of that.
that place is incredible. Yeah. I'll go. Sometimes I can, you know, if I'm in there, I'll just sit there and just walk around and look at all the pictures, the history, the decoys, the carvings. That is just, it is. Yeah.
The deer population, I feel like it's kind of.
So that's a factor. I don't want to studies or anything because I won't be able to give you the right numbers, but there are studies out there that show deer specifically hang out anywhere, I would say within 150 feet of a trail that's used by people, and I think it's like 300 feet, which is a football field, from a trail that's used by people and dogs and horses and all that. And so, yeah, so I would venture to say that you'll see the deer out there at night, in the evenings, early in the morning when there aren't a lot of people.
You ever thought about creating like a week for just deer hunting out there to bring in more people maybe into hunting?
We've never thought about doing anything like that.
Too bad when people like to hike, but
Yeah,
just saying.
yeah.
As I used to deer hunt, I don't want to go to a place that's
Yeah,
walking around.
and I do the same thing. I try to avoid places where there's a lot of people. we could never, there'd be no way to entertain the idea of stopping, you know, everybody else
Right.
except for one user group to use, that's not,
If it was a youth hunt.
but, well, if it was a youth hunt, you'd still have to contend
Yeah.
with the people. Yeah, there's no scenario where we would stop a different user group from using the property, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, so,
Is there any thought to fixing the Indian pathway over to the place?
so, that would be great,
That would be great.
yeah.
That would be wonderful.
So,
It's part of the,
short answer is no, but yes,
Yeah.
ideally, someday that would be great.
that's the base
Um,
trail too.
Yeah, and the other thing that would be nice in that area would be to block it off to the ATVs and dirt bikes.
Yes.
Especially if we're gonna go in there and fix it, we need to stop that kind of activity out there. So, yeah. So, yeah, that spot there is, definitely something that needs fixing. It's bad in there, yeah. And, you know, right, yeah.
Is this the area you're talking where there's a levee that is between like the big cedar swamp, used to be a bog?
So it runs between like Crooker Place and out to the Stillman Bogs.
Okay, yeah, that's,
Yeah,
it's all washed out.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Well, so what's needed to make, is it money, is it manpower, is it both?
It's always manpower.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
is money a big issue?
Money, no, we can get money for certain projects. It's a couple years out when we identify a project before, you know, it's completed. So that's part of the problem. But the money, we have a lot of, believe it or not, we have a lot of stewardship money these days. And, so,
You could get
and there's,
help from the schools, the Aggie or
yeah.
the Bristol as a project.
Mm-hmm. The other thing we've done too is have Eagle Scouts do projects for us, and they're great. They're fun to work with. My son's a Boy Scout, so I help out with his troop. And I've had a couple kids from Freetown, and I think Halifax. One kid from Halifax did a couple projects for me, and it was awesome. It was wicked fun working with them. So, but with us, you know, as an agency, it's the manpower and it's the equipment. Yeah.
What can Halifax do better on their side of the property? Like if you go south there, past that last canal, some beautiful, you know, glacial uplifts. It's beautiful. It's called like Halifax Waterland or whatever, but like what can Halifax do?
Where are you talking?
Well, I guess it's the, past Stumper Dam, you come to the second dam, there's a big levee road that goes across. And,
As you're heading like downstream?
yeah, you're going this way.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And you come to an uplift,
Mm-hmm.
and there's an old canal that's pretty deep, you know,
Mhm.
and then there's like a little trail that, like, some people throw pallets out there, whatever. It's just like awesome, like beautiful.
Mhm.
There's this canal, and it's like these pine trees, and I don't know, it's not like, it's just not anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just Halifax Waterland or something.
Oh, it's what? Oh,
I don't
I
know
know.
what it's for, but
It's
it's like,
a-
what can we do better?
It's like
What-
a-
I feel like Burrage is all Hanson, even though part of it's in Halifax. What can Halifax do to make it more encompassing? You know, like
It's hard to say,
our
cause that's,
town.
I think that's like a well site that you're talking about, right?
Yeah. Well, sort of, but not really sure.
I think, I wanna say,
It's like
yep,
out behind Cranberry Drive.
yes,
Yeah.
It
yeah.
was for a future well site.
That's what
That aquifer might have been contaminated for the dump.
Oh,
Probably.
I see.
Underground
It's beautiful,
water flow
though.
goes
Yeah.
that way.
yeah.
Really get up there and see.
Honestly, the best thing that the town could do is create access for people to get in there and use it. You don't wanna park at the end of a cul-de-sac, and you really
Right.
can only park like one vehicle there even if you did it. Creating access to some of these places is a great thing for a town to be able to do, if they're not gonna use it or have no intentions on using it as a well site. I know if towns wanna use a piece as a well site, it's not gonna generally be used, you know, for conservation or public recreation and things like that, so.
Isn't some of that land though all Audubon land over
Some of it is, some of it's Audubon. We own,
That used to be posted.
yeah.
No dogs, you can't walk a dog over there.
So most Audubon property is closed to the public. Not all of it, but that particular piece, when you read the signs, it tells you you don't even want electronic devices in there, and it's all kinds of stuff. So they don't want anybody in those pieces at all. And they have a lot of those properties around.
This doesn't say no trespassing. I've been back there. I walked
No,
up
you
there.
can trespass, but you want
Yeah.
to have your dog.
But
Yeah, there's,
I understood the only reason was because it was landlocked.
that could be the case, yeah, yeah,
Probably not though, because it
yeah.
butts Burrage.
Well, but there's private land.
Yeah, that's the trouble. On that side, it's all subdivisions.
It's all subdivisions.
And then Hemlock Road, there's a piece that comes out to that road, but it's like, probably not even the width of this room. It's a tiny, tiny piece. Yeah,
right there.
yeah.
They should just give it to Mass Wildlife, trade it for something else that they want.
That
Yeah.
might not ever happen.
Be surprised.
But that would be great. We would gladly take it on.
Do you own land on the Winnetoxet River?
We do. We just bought a piece very recently on West
On
Street.
West Street.
So that's my next project, is that piece over there. I've only walked it once, so I haven't really explored the whole piece yet, but,
Get at it from Wildlands Trust property?
can you? Yeah.
No.
Oh,
Can you?
I don't know. I mean, you could, if you walked across Wildlands Trust property into our property, you could do that if you wanted to. There's no, our properties are open to the public no matter how you wanna walk in there.
But it's possible to do that?
I don't know. I haven't walked the boundaries of that piece yet, so I don't know exactly, I don't know much of anything except for where the road frontage sits. So that one just came across my desk like
Yeah,
2 weeks ago, so,
around the corner from us.
yeah, so I haven't had much time to spend out there.
Some of that out there is private property too, is it not?
There's most likely, yeah, there's probably private property all around that piece.
How many
Yeah,
acres?
not sure yet. Yeah, yeah. I haven't even seen like the assessor map of it yet. It's that new to me. I haven't explored it much. So, so I won't know much of anything until I start marking the boundaries, walking around the property, see where it actually sits on the road frontage, try to figure out where we want to kind of maybe put in. I've kind of got a little bit of an idea where I want to put a little parking area, but it's going to be very limited. It's probably looking at like 3 cars or something, maybe 2. It's going to be a small piece. So, but we'll see how it goes once you start digging into it. Yeah, yeah.
Is that the south side of West Street?
If you came from,
South.
so if you're coming from, say, like Cumberland Farm side, it would be on your right-hand side.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Wet.
There's some nice high ground in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, up and back, and then it drops right down to the river. It's kind of pretty in there. Yeah. I took a quick walk. There's like an old logging road that goes down in there that I quickly walked down, and I walked it out to where it looked like the brook was not too far down. And then,
And how'd you get that property? Was that
Uh,
given?
I don't know.
Oh.
So our land agent, every district has their own land agent. Our land agent, Joan Pierce, she does all the work, all the legwork to buy our properties, pick up our conservation restrictions, and then once that work is done, that folder plops on my desk, and then I gotta start going through it, so.
Find you abandoned car up there?
No, I have not.
Is it 38, I think it's a Ford. that-
Yeah.
Is it?
Trees growing up through it,
Yeah, we find some cool stuff. I found an old tractor on one of our properties in Middleborough, and it still had like the metal cogs in the wheels, and it was like nothing left except for rusted steel, and it was like covered in a coating of snow. It was like the most perfect like Christmas card picture you could ever see. But, yeah, so. So I guess that's it for me.
Thank you very
So,
much.
yeah, thank you guys.
Great, so you answered all the questions.